God, laying your majesty aside. You reached down in love to show me life, lifted from darkness into light. Oh, king for a slave, trading your righteousness for shame. Despite all my pride and foolish ways, caught in your infinite embrace. Oh, and I find myself here on my knees again, caught up in grace like an avalanche. Nothing compares to this love, 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 burning in my heart. Burning in my heart.
Where are you, husband? How long have I been gone? Husband? Oh. Pray you pardon me, I didn't see you there.
One moment, miss. Whom do you seek?
I hardly know. He's most changeable. He wears white wings upon his heart. One moment, and he's gone. I fear he's fled.
He'll stay.
I hope so.
I'll vouch for him. What was his name?
He was called Passion once, and Cupid too. But I called him husband, and father of my child.
A father.
I am fatherless. I pray you pardon me, my candles nearly spent and all the stars drowned.
One moment more.
I cannot
I
stay.
beg you, dream. Oh, do not leave me here.
As Catholics, as Christians, as people of goodwill, or anyone who has sort of a desire not to give into the excesses of the world, there can be an absolute fear of attraction.
Love is blindness, I don't wanna see. Won't you wrap the knife around me? Squeeze the handle, blow out the candle. Blindness.
An absolute fear of desire. But what we know is that desire and attraction are not evils. In fact, these are the way that God goads us and guides us and encourages us and tries to get us to see where he wants us to go and what our vocation is. If you have a desire towards another person, that person may need to be someone important to you. The question is, what do we do with the impetus and the urges that we receive?
Love is blindness, I don't wanna see. Won't you wrap the night around me? I love blindness.
There's so many forms of love to begin with. There's eros, which is just attraction, and that can be attraction for someone with whom you may want to have a marital relationship, or it can be hero worship as well. That's what eros is, any sort of attraction. There's need-based love, which is the love between a child and a parental figure, so that could be a baseball player and the coach, the student and the teacher, the child and the mother, the child and the father. It's a need-based love. It's a love that comes from the protege's need and is answered by the mentor's love. Then you have friendship, which is soul to soul, which is the resonance of two people, as C.S. Lewis, who are called together over something as simple as mathematics, but it can alter the world. And then you have charity, or agape, unconditional love, self-sacrificial love, Christ's love. John Paul II, in his Love and Responsibility, which is wonderful, he talks about loving the unique otherness of the other. When you first come to that point of eros, of attraction, whether it began in friendship or not, all the beauty of the other person starts filling up different pockets of affection in you. The pocket of loving their intellect or their talent, of loving the precise weirdness and strange jokes that make them laugh, of loving their speech patterns. And then he says, it just fills up the pool as well of sexual attraction, which was always latently there. But that's not where it needs to begin. It's just, it takes up all the different parts of you. In a similar way, when we act, when we do this grand theater, it takes every part of us. It takes our body, it takes our mind, it takes our emotions, it takes our memories, it takes our intellect, all of it.
I must see him again. My love, I call him, for I know no other name by which to call him except my love. And yet, not mine, for he will not send word of how he likes me, or whether he likes me, or whether he likes not of me, or whether I am forgot. What a case am I to pines, to spare I, who once burned with no greater fire than that which my active mind could provide, now find my mind feeble and preoccupied with this stranger who kissed me. One kiss! What of that?
I started dancing first, just for enjoyment and to meet friends. And it was a number of years later that I learned about theology of the body. And as I was learning about theology of the body, it occurred to me that there were some similarities with what I was experiencing on the dance floor. And so I would go out dancing, and I would have these inspirational moments on the dance floor, and I would say, wow, that was really an amazing experience, and I would reflect on that afterwards. It's true, when you're out dancing, I go out dancing socially, and you don't show up with a partner. So you're encouraged to dance with a number of different people, and so for 3 minutes, or sometimes shorter, or sometimes longer, you are listening to the music and dancing with the other person and creating that connection and relationship with that person while you're on the dance floor. And so it's similar to a relationship that would exist off the dance floor, a romantic relationship. And so through the theology of the body, they describe how the relationship between the spouses helps illuminate the relationship that God has with humanity. And so on the dance floor, there's this 3-minute interchange where you're having a very, very abbreviated relationship that inspires each other. Sometimes it's not so inspirational. Sometimes it's a little clunky, but that's what's nice about it, is that you can learn from the different experiences and move on from there. So yeah, it's a nice way to get a foretaste of what a marriage relationship is, and something that would inspire us to connect with God more. One of the things that really impressed me about partner dancing is how it relates to God's relationship with humanity, and how that was highlighted through theology of the body. Because theology of the body is really a study of the body and how it illuminates and reveals the truth about God to us. And for me, in particular in Lindy Hop Swing, there's a movement where the man is extending his arm and holding the hand of his partner, and he's drawing her in to him, and she's asked, directed by his hand, to come straight towards his body. And then he turns her around 180 degrees and then steps aside and gets out of her way and allows her to go back out. And for me, it spoke to me when I was on the dance floor and learning about theology of the body, that that's what God does with us. He draws us in and then turns us around and allows us, he gets out of our way, allows us to have that moment of conversion, and then he sends us back out into the world to shine, to be beautiful and inspire other people. So I just was struck by the fact that God inspires the musician to play and to be a musician and to be creative with his music, and then in particular with live music that interacts with the dancers that are on the dance floor and inspires the dancers. You know, they might be sitting down totally exhausted, but if a musician starts and they're inspired by the music, they'll hop out of their seats and go dance one more time. And it's just this moment when people are getting outside of themselves. They're listening to the music and being inspired by the music. And that to me is what God's asking us to do. He's asking us to listen to what he's saying and be inspired, and then to get up and go be creative.
In tango, just like in real life, you know, if we move from the assumption that men and women are created differently to the fact that we have different roles, what you are likely to end up with when those roles start becoming either confused or forced to be something else is a lot of frustration and discouragement on the part of both the men and the women. And I think that we see that a lot in today's society. Specifically with tango, you know, in my experience teaching, I love seeing couples come in to learn, because it brings so many issues up to the surface when the follower starts trying to lecture the leader on what and how he should be leading and what he should be doing. It's very hurtful for the leader, because in essence what the follower is saying is, you can't do it yet, or you're not doing a good job at something that is at the core of who you are as a man. And in the same way, when a leader lectures his follower on what she should be doing to make the dance more beautiful, what he's telling her is, right now you're incapable of making this dance beautiful. And that goes to the core of what every woman wants to know, which is that I am beautiful and loved and valued and cherished. That dynamic is definitely at play within tango, and you know, you see it all the time. Well, that's why it was valuable for me, because going into a serious relationship. Tango brought brought these conflicts out in a way that was healthy, where I could say to myself when a follower was telling me, no, do this, or why don't you do that, or when I felt like a follower was trying to backlead me, or when she just was doing whatever she wanted, and I felt myself being hurt, it gave me a safe environment where I could say, well, why am I frustrated? Why am I discouraged? And I could start to understand, well, I'm discouraged because, in my heart of hearts, I want to be able to lead. I want to be enough of a leader where a woman would entrust herself to me, whether it's in a dance or in a relationship, right? I want to be competent. I want to know what I'm doing. And I think maybe a little bit on the follower side, especially in tango socials, something that's very difficult to do is wait for a leader to ask you to dance. And we see that a lot in New York City milongas, where women will just walk up to men and say, let's dance, let's dance. And there might not necessarily be anything wrong with that. It's sort of hard to describe. I think maybe in certain situations that's all right. But I think what's more interesting is why does that dynamic exist? Because that dynamic probably didn't exist 50 or 100 years ago. It probably would have been perceived as vulgar for a woman to walk up to a man and say, here, let's dance. Because there was a much firmer understanding of it's the man's job to approach the lady and ask for the dance. And it is her right to say yes or no. That's definitely started to become a little bit muddied today in our culture. And the same is true with relationships. I've overheard conversations with, in coffee shops and in bars with girls saying, well, you know what, he hasn't asked me yet, so I'm just gonna go and ask him. And, you're allowed to do that, but when we start behaving in ways that aren't in accordance with our natures as men and women, then problems start to happen. We have this huge group of young adults from about 25 years old to 35 or 40 years old who are coming every week, and it's because they're experiencing something that the culture has obscured for a long time. They're being invited into real masculinity and real femininity, and they're getting to actually experience that. And some of them are experiencing that for the first time. And it's scary, but it's incredibly rewarding, which is why I get so many emails from people saying, thank you so much for doing this. I'll be back next week. Can we go to 2 times a week or 3 times a week? People want more and more and more of it, and it's because they're getting to experience something that's part of their nature. Leading is risky, and following is risky as well. There's risk in both of those things, just like there are risks in relationships. For me, what has been so good to learn has just been in learning that it's okay to take risks, because for a long time I didn't. I was too scared to take risks. And learning what it feels like to take those risks, whether I'm leading in tango or in a relationship. Learning how rewarding it is just to take those risks, because it's part of my manhood, being able to take those risks, if it goes well or if it doesn't. And that's something that is surprisingly evident in theology of the body. We feel as if we've been invited to take risks in our relationships by being open and authentic with people. For men, in being a little bit more forward with women and saying, would you like to go out on a date? Or being a little bit more clear when we want to pursue a relationship or not. And I think, I can't speak for women, but I think with a lot of the women that we have in our community, it's in letting go a little bit, letting go of control, which can be so difficult, and receiving the leadership from the man. Again, whether that's in tango or in relationships. I think that this group is beginning to discover life lived within our roles and within our natures as men and women. And we're experiencing something really exciting that I think everyone wants to continue.
People know that I'm a spiritual person, so I'm not going to make something that is not going to glorify your body. Because as a woman of God, you always want to glorify God. So you're thinking of your body as that dwelling that He gave you. You want to be attractive, first of all, to God. And then you want to be attractive to outsiders. So what they see is what their first impulse. Before you say anything, they're going to see you. You walk in the door, it's what you have on is very important. When you're talking about attracting attention, say it's they're going to an event or they have a date and they want to go out, you don't want to attract attention to your body, you want to attract attention to you. You want to be expressive with what you're wearing so that what you're wearing does project you and what kind of person you are. I do stay within the realm of fashion. I don't want to be boring either. I mean, you do want to, everybody wants to look beautiful and everybody wants to be attractive. And there's a lot of things out there that you buy and you're like, well, how am I going to wear that? With a little bit of wisdom and knowledge, you can. You want to attract somebody to you, your mind and who you are, and not to where am I going to take her tonight? Because then that's meaningless, that's fleeting, that's not what you want. You look at Matthew 16, it says, don't worry about what you wear. He made beautiful fabrics and He made, gave you that creative mind to create these great styles. And He gave you your body, and that body is the dwelling place. So you represent Him. When you walk into the room, you're representing God. So He loves you so much that He gives everybody different personalities and different, characters, and you need to look like that person and look like that character. And He created somebody who can envision an outfit for you, and He loves fine fabrics. He adorns you with jewels, and I believe He wants you to look good. He talks about the Proverbs 31 woman and how she just would make things out of fine cloth. And so God admires that. He wants you to look your best. I mean, actually, He gave you that body, and you are supposed to take care of it and make it look pleasing to Him and to everyone else. And I know that He loves looking at beautiful things, all the beautiful flowers. I can create these beautiful things that God would want to see. And I think about well, what would God like? And he inspires me too. So I get a lot of inspiration from that, and that came from reading the scriptures and really getting to know him and knowing what he's like. And I like to think too, so when you walk into a room, and if Jesus was sitting there, would he like what you had on? So, I like to think about that and try to just glorify what I have and what talents God has given me. And he loved me so much that he gave me those talents, which he gives everyone some talent, and that just happened to be mine. So I make sure I want to use it.
I find myself here on my knees again, caught up in grace like an avalanche. Nothing compares to this love.